This is my behavior management PowerPoint for EDFD 420. The four theories I chose are social learning theory, reality and choice theory, teacher effectiveness theory, and social discipline model. The social learning theory was created by Albert Bandura in 1997. It's based on the theory of personality. People learn from one another via observation, imitation, and modeling. It has been referred to as a bridge between behaviorist and cognitive learning theories because it encompasses attention, memory, and motivation. He denied self-efficacy as the beliefs in one's capability to organize and execute the courses of action required to manage prospective situations. Self-efficacy instead is a central component of classroom management. When it comes to managing behavior, it's important to keep the group focus. If a group at a table is acting out, keep the whole group accountable. Again, just keeping that, observation, showing the class, that's not good behavior. On the other hand, for rewards, just pointing out what is good behavior and displaying that behavior. If a student is working well, point out to the class, this is what I'm looking for. This is the type of behavior that we want to see. When it comes to rules, it's really important for the teacher to be super descriptive and to be super detailed in teaching the rules of the classroom. And not only teaching rules in the classroom, but teaching rules outside of the classroom. Well-behaved kids, outside of the classroom, at recess, at home, in other classes are just well-rounded kids. They're going to be happier students. They're going to behave better in your class. Another great exercise for the students to do is to do role playing. Give the student a situation to walk in on, and then have them, act out, okay, how do you handle this? Who are you going to talk to about it? Do you need to get an adult involved? As for routines, keeping everything, whole class, group activities, it allows the students to learn from each other. We don't need an excessive amount of communication with parents in social learning theory. Students should be pretty independent. If a child does misbehave, a great way to handle it is to have the student stay in the classroom, stay engaged, but just have the student demonstrate what the correct behavior to their poor behavior is. And, as for keeping an inclusive classroom, pretty much every theory does follow, like have all the students work together, have all levels working together. The reality and choice theory was created by William Glasser in 1997. It states that students need to have an awareness of their own responsibility and to make their own decisions about their learning and behavior in the classroom. Students must have a choice in that if they help choose the curriculum and decide on the rules in the classroom, they will have more of an ownership of their learning and have more pride in the participation. They'll have higher self-esteem and will exhibit greater levels of self-confidence and higher levels of cognition. This approach creates a really safe classroom and a safe environment. When managing misbehavior, it's important that the student themselves identifies the inappropriate behavior and avoiding any excuses or reasons why the behavior might be acceptable, but just realizing right away, this is what I did, and realizing that's inappropriate. As for rewards, keeping ownership in the classroom and letting students decide how they want to be rewarded in the beginning of the year. Again, same for rules, having students make up their rules for the day. What do they need to have a safe classroom and to feel safe in their environment? As for routine, having them do more individual activities and giving them the voice to say, this routine is not working for me, I don't like the order of this, and within reason, adjusting your schedule, adjusting your routine to their needs. As for consequences, again, was I? Oh, yikes. Okay, there are. For consequences, having students make a list of the consequences, again, they want at the beginning of the year. When communicating with parents, a good way to handle it is to have the student themselves actually call the parent. It gives them it puts a responsibility on them, and it's horrifying for students to have to call their parents to tell them about their misbehavior. If they do misbehave, give them time to calm down and reflect. Students are only able to control how they act. They can't control how they feel, so it's good for them to take a moment to think about how they act and how they thought. As for an inclusive classroom, again, not requiring students to work one-on-one, but giving them the option. Teacher effectiveness training was created by Gordon Thomas in 1974. It's the quality of the teacher-student relationship that's really important. It's actually more important than what the teacher is teaching or who they're teaching. It offers a teacher the essential communication and conflict resolution skills they need to have high-quality relationships with their students. This creates a lot more time for teaching in the end. This theory has been very effective for a lot of teachers. When managing behavior, it's important to keep that strong relationship between the student and the teacher, setting up a conference with the student and keeping it very private. As for rewards, it's good to avoid rewards and punishment and focus more on how does a good behavior or a bad behavior affect a relationship, and letting the success of a relationship be more the reward. As for routines, let students have a say in the routine. There should be a lot of student-teacher one-on-one time. For rules, students and teachers should decide on the agreements together, have them be called agreements instead of rules. Having agreements has less, it sounds less strict. And it holds students to a higher accountability, saying, hey, you agreed to this. Not, you broke the rule, but you made an agreement that you were going to not, speak without raising your hand. It holds kids to higher accountability. For consequences, students and teachers should decide the consequences together. When communicating with parents, hopefully the student and teacher can come together to an agreement. If not, then get the parents involved. But for most disciplinary problems, it should be handled between student and teacher. In order to there should be a strong relationship in the first place created so that they can communicate about these problems. And again, if a student misbehaves, always using I statements. I noticed that you did this. I feel like this when I felt like this when you told me this. Instead of placing blame on the student and alienating a student. The social discipline model was created by Rudolf Dreikurs in 1972. It states that discipline is based on mutual respect, and that motivates students to behave well just because of their high sense and social interest. All humans have a primary need to feel part of the group and just to feel that they're valued. So he actually calls this a genuine goal of human social behavior. And basically, when students aren't able to reach this goal, they act out in what are called mistaken goals, which is basically behavioral problems. And those are defined as attention, power, revenge, and inadequacy. When managing behavior, it can be as simple as just giving that student a look. Don't alienate the student. Don't remove them from the group. When it comes to rewards, encourage students remind them that they're important to the group and that they contribute a lot. Routines, have activities be a lot of group work, working together, contributing together. For rules, again, have students make the rules and always have a democratic classroom, and let them know that their opinions and their voices are very important to you. Consequences, there's two types of consequences. There's logical and natural consequences. Logical is a consequence that makes sense to the behavior. If a student's leaning back in a chair, have them stand for the rest of the class period. Don't send them to the office. Don't make them stand at recess or do a writing activity. Give them a punishment that matches their poor behavior. As for a natural consequence, on the other hand, that's when, let's say a student is leaning back on their chair and they fall back and they hit their head, or they make a loud noise, all the students are staring at them. The natural consequence in itself is just the embarrassment of falling back and disrupting the class. So there should be no further punishment followed after that. When communicating with the parents, it's important that the parents are educated about how to make their students feel valued. That will transfer over into the classroom, and you just get better behavior out of them. If a child is misbehaving, have them work alone, take them out of the group, and hopefully with this theory throughout time, students will start to realize how important the group work really is, that working together, you get so much more done. You just feel more valued and that your voice is being heard. And again, for an inclusive classroom, have all students work together. That can be really beneficial for both students. So those are the four theories that I chose for my classroom management that I feel would benefit me the most when I have my own classroom, that I feel that I can relate to the most. So here are my sources.